Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Crossover. Starring Josh Johnson and Chris McGill. Featuring Christina Thorson. And of course, you, the Instagram live chat. Now, sit back and enjoy this week's edition of The Crossover. Powered by Card Ladder.
Oh,
Hey, what's up, man?
I am on the iPad. What do you think so far?
It's a little choppy.
Is it worse?
Yeah. It's clear though. It's your visual is super clear.
Choppy like the audio's choppy?
No, like the video is just sort of choppy.
Maybe just give it like
Christina,
1 minute.
Yeah.
Freaking robot where he's like every 4 frames he gets caught.
Yeah. Mohammed, don't do that, Mohammed.
All right, I'll switch to my phone. It's horrible. It's annoying to hold anyways.
Yeah. All right. There we go.
Better like holding this giant thing.
Yeah. All right. Jonathan Taylor card says, "Did you spend all your cash on LeBron and forget to pay for the Wi-Fi bill?"
I think it's my phone. I took off my case. We'll see if that helps too.
Nice. All right. It looks good. Sounds good too. Smooth. All right. Damn. Thursday, the people file in a little faster, even though it's midnight for the most populous section of the country.
And they get a little more salty quicker on Thursdays.
Yeah. All right. So lots of good questions this week. I didn't expect so many for Thursday. Today is Thursday, June 29th, 2023. Almost the end of Q2 for those that know the world. And we have stuff about the National, lots of really good questions. Before we get to mail days, as we just let maybe a few more people come in, if anybody else is trying to come on, we have some Card Ladder announcements to go over this week. What's the first one we've got?
We launched a new tab, and it's called Industry. And Industry is a bunch of high-level data graphs around the overall industry health. We're going to add more to this in the future. We're just starting with this so far, but basically you can go here and look at the total sales volume across the entire secondary market month to month. So, if someone is coming to you with like, hey, the market's tanking, we should all panic, just go to the sales volume for the entire month. You can see it's actually like relatively flat. And because you'd think like it peaked in 2021, it actually peaked volume wise in like February 2022. It's come down for sure from then. We peaked at like $250 million of secondary market sales in 1 month, and now we're down to like the 160, 170 range. It's very interesting data. We also track it every day. So volume every single day. You can see the days that like Sundays are always higher. These are like auction house, premier and elite nights that end. Then we also keep track of how many times they sell like individual sales counts. So you can look at the count, daily sales count, and then also verified. How much of the sales are you guys as our team verifying into the system? So a lot of interesting data. What's your thoughts on like the concept of it at a high level for this kind of stuff?
I love it. It's information that I don't think has ever been made available to collectors before. So now collectors can take a look at aggregate figures for the secondary market for volume, or in other words, how many dollars are being spent on sports cards in the secondary market, and on number of units. So how many millions of sports cards are being purchased every month. And that's really good data to have. So I love it. And I think it's information that is needed, that it's standing alone. You can't only look at it in a vacuum. You want to take that data, you want to look at it in conjunction with index price index data. You want to look at it in conjunction with the eye test of how you feel the hobby is doing, so to speak. It's just a nice supplementary piece of information to have that I don't think the public has ever had before.
The interesting thing I'm noticing is that the indexes are not matching the sales volume at all. So the indexes indicate how much someone is spending per item on an individual category, whether it's a player or a sport or whatever. But the overall volume is about the same relative. You know, it's like within 25, plus or minus 25%. It's pretty much the same every month. So that kind of tells me that we didn't really necessarily see a massive flood of people leave. It's just that the activity of where the confidence is has changed. So people are like, instead of spending all their money on basketball right now, they're moving it over to Pokemon, or they're moving it over to baseball. Right now, football quarterbacks are hot. So I think people still have the desire to maintain their activity levels and how much they spend. It's just it's like moving around, and I would say more money right now is being put into like the low end and the mid end, because there's less of like, hey, I can't really afford, it doesn't make any sense to be spending 10K plus on cards right now. So let me put my money in lower stuff because I still want to remain active.
Yeah, absolutely. My last thought on this is that in addition to what you said and sort of building on it, it's also possible that they're just sort of, we all in the market came to a consensus independently that we're spending and we're pricing stuff way too high. So, you know, there could still be the same amount of people who want, you know, a 2003 Topps Chrome Refractor LeBron PSA 10, but they just decided 300,000 isn't the right price. You know, I'm going to set my max bid now at $30,000, and you know, and that makes more sense when markets have cooled off, especially other alternative markets have cooled off. It sort of makes sense that psychologically we will start putting limits on ourselves for what we're going to spend on sports cards. And, you know, it's possible that we all just kind of put limits on ourselves at the same time that's led to a drop off in prices, but not a drop off in activity.
Yep. Well, I see this page as like a landing spot for a lot more stuff. I think I have a few other ideas. I don't know if Christina's gonna like mute me if I start going, but I have a few other ideas that I want to put here. I kind of want to just hear from either the chat or people that use the app. You know, just DM me if you have any other ideas of kind of this high level stuff you'd like to see. I know people have asked for information around like how much does a PSA 10 versus a PSA 9 cost. I get that question a lot. I think that would be pretty interesting data. So something along those lines of like big hairy questions that you want to know about the industry. I think we can tackle some of those now because we have so much data now. I think we can answer some of those big questions.
I love it. Yeah. All right. Great. Okay. Any other announcements? Card letter related? No? No.
Our 3-year anniversary was last Friday.
Oh, that's right. June 23rd, 2023 was the Hey, look, we've got a title already. That was our 3-year anniversary. Would you like to reflect on that at all?
I just thought it was cool that it was 23, you know, twice in the date, and it was the 3rd. I don't know. We're not big on like, oh, let's celebrate anniversaries, so we just kind of move on and the next day happens. So
yes, it does. But yeah, it's pretty neat. Dude, 3 years, when I saw the number and I thought about 3 years, Mohammed says get to the mail day already. You know what? We're going to drag this out, Mohammed, just for you. When I saw the 3 years, I said, you know what? 3 years doesn't seem that long. It seems like we've been in business for a long time. But 3 years isn't that long of a time, I guess. I don't know. 3 years is how long law school is, so I guess it is long.
yeah, David says, I remember beta testing this bitch. I think about one, convincing you to leave law, basically. It wasn't much convincing, but it was like, are you sure you want to do this, bro? Because I think you need to do it. You know, like your hands are kind of tied. And then the beta test group, all those guys that helped us get it going. Good times.
Shout out to the betas with David Owens at the top of that list. All right.
Best beta we've ever met.
A beta.
Let's give the people what they came here for, so that 50 people can drop off. Show us the mailman.
I'm nervous. I'm very nervous.
Okay.
It's a lot of money to spend, and it's a big decision, and I'm interested to see the reaction. Here's my first one. I got a PSA return today. PSA 4, probably my highest grade ever. A 4. It's pretty good. I just feel like everyone that does this is like, why don't you just put that in authentic? People might assume it's like an 8 if you put it in authentic. It's like, I want you to know this thing is fucked.
Yeah.
Okay, what everyone's here for. I haven't shown this yet. I'm back.
Hey!
I'm back in the Exquisite for the audio only people. 03 Exquisite RPA at a 99. Yep, here it is. So this one is better auto, slightly better patch than my last one, and the thing I'm most excited about is there's no holofoil line. My last one had a big old, like, you've seen like those refractor lines on cards, like a big line down it. This one has none of that. The surface is basically immaculate. It's a PSA 6, and that's because one of the corners is pretty like hammered in, but everything else on the card honestly is like pretty perfect. So excited about the autograph. It's kind of like an interesting, like nice looking auto. Like it's got some unique parts to it. The patch is obviously not like stellar, but better than what I had before. So back in the game, back in the Exquisite RPA game. Let's see what happens.
All right. So first question, if you're ready to talk about it now, is what's the background behind how you got the card? Starting with like, when did it come on your radar?
Well, I mean, I've been buying a lot of Exquisite, obviously, and that one's always been in the back of my mind. Like, should I just stop messing around and just go straight for the RPA and stop buying all the other stuff? So I did kind of like slow down and save money and move some stuff around. I sold some cards kind of behind the scenes over the last couple months, saving up for it. And then it was an auction that did not get paid on PWCC. I messaged them, said, hey, I'm interested if I can come in at that underbidder price. And then basically like flew up there, picked it up myself, flew to PSA, crossed it over, flew home. That was in the last.
In like the span of like 7 days.
Flew up Tuesday morning, went to the vault to grab it Tuesday afternoon, flew to Orange County Tuesday night. Wednesday was at the offices getting some work done, because we're obviously employees of collectors, and then had it graded and came home last night.
So what do you think about the crossover grading experience? How did that work? Like, what was the original grade? Did you crack it out? How did the grading experience work?
Yeah, that's the part that like most people aren't gonna agree with me when I get it, and it's like the part that is weird to talk about. It was an 8.5. The corners were an 8, and I saw the corner like in the scan. And when I saw it in person, like, yeah, this corner is pretty bad. The front right is like not great. So I put in a min 6.10. I knew the auto would get a 10. I figured it was probably going to get a 6 with my experience of grading these cards. And they're like, yeah, it met the minimum, but it's not going to go over a 6. So we'll keep it at 6 and cross it.
Okay, and does that seem kind of on par these days for trying to take thicker cards from other holders and put them into PSAs? There's usually like a 2 to 3 grade difference.
Yeah. I mean, with BGS having their scaling system the way it works, where they sort of like average the 4 out and pull up from the bottom score, and whereas PSA really, like, if you have any of the 4 that has a low score, you're basically pulling the whole overall grade down to that low score. So with the thicker cards, it is a little bit tougher, and with the modern cards, ultra modern, I've noticed, and I think you have too, like, PSA is a little more, has more PSA 10s than you would see, BGS 9.5. So it's definitely a lot harder on the Exquisite side. I think there's a bit of a decent premium to have Exquisite cards slabbed in PSA just because there are so few of them. Like, I think this is a pop 2 now, and there's like 8 total graded with the autograph score. There's a few without the autograph, but I think Beckett has over 100 of these graded, and there's only 99.
Yep.
Yep. It's probably like a wash in value, maybe a slight hit going from the 8.5 to the 6, but the scarcity of like the PSA slabs, like I said, it's interesting to me. I have all PSA cards. I prefer the slab. I prefer the color. I went for it. We'll see what happens. I'm not too worried about it. I'm just gonna hang on to it.
Is it in your Card Ladder Showcase collection yet?
For those, if you know. If you ever want to figure out my mail day, just sign up for Card Ladder and go to Showcase. Because I have no patience. Like right when I got home, I scanned it into Showcase last night. So you could have seen it last night.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pro tip right there. Because like a few people are asking why did the crossover if the grade goes lower? Well, this is part of the reason why. There it is. Most recently added. Let's just take a look at the nice big chunky scan of this guy. Okay, so here's why.
My scanner is better than all these vaults and grading companies.
If you look at Josh's collection, it presents so nicely with all of the uniform slabs. And, I get it. I get why you don't want the one card to be in a different slab. Because look,
can you just imagine just one card, not PSA?
Exactly. So we get it. Okay, so how have you been enjoying? This is a question most people are going to be like, "What are you talking about?" But how have you been enjoying the card since you got it? Where has it been? Has it been by your side? Has it been in the box? What order is it in? If it's in the box,
it's been upside down on my desk. If you listen to my interview with Austin, it's been upside down. No, I've had it with me and just kind of like looking it over, inspecting it, having some fun with it. I'm getting ready to take her over to the bank, ASAP. So having a couple of days with it, it's making me nervous having it around,
Fair. Very fair. Okay. All right. Good. You want to say anything else about, I've been to PWC's headquarters once. Was this your first time going? What were your thoughts on visiting PWCC there?
Well, I really like the area of Portland. I like Oregon. It's a little bit outside Portland, but I love the area. I remember when they launched that vault, they're like, yeah, it's literally like a bunker in the middle of a forest, and it is. You like drive through the forest, and they've got tons of security, and they've got a lot more security even now with Fanatics. But it's a very clean, organized ship they got running there. So shout out to the guys over there for showing me some hospitality and helped me get this. I think the thing I wanted to talk about is like, just like the confidence that I have in the industry, because I think a lot of people are nervous right now, rightfully so, in the market, especially the high end market, especially the like super rare, and I would consider this to be like pretty a modern card, like the lack of confidence lately in this market, and like catching the falling knife. Is this thing going to keep going down? I have no idea. I don't know if I bought this and it's going to go down another 50%. That's possible. Maybe I bought it too early. I don't know. I just think about it in terms of this card was like over $1 million like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, which is for me, that's just way out of my range. And now it's like, it's in the range of where I can use some equity from my other PC. I can put it into this card. I just have so much confidence in like the overall market and the collectible space that I'm just like, it doesn't worry me that much. Like this is the best card of my favorite player. I'll just get it. Like I don't have that many chances in life to own something like this, so I'm just gonna do it. And I didn't even sell, like you just look through my showcase, I didn't even sell a lot of my big like LeBron stuff. All this new Exquisite I bought, kept all that. I have a pretty decent size of Exquisite stuff now. And LeBron market's just been getting clobbered. So I just feel like, how much more can he get clobbered this close to like the end of his career and stuff? It's just like it's such a he's just his legacy is just so set for me, and it's like I feel like he's coming down to like that Wizards Jordan phase where, and like the end of Kobe's phase where you're sort of like cringing to watch the end of it a little bit. Like it's not the same as it used to be. He's not doing the high flying stuff anymore, and so that's kind of like when I get excited. Like, okay, this is the time to buy when other people are nervous, and because I know long term LeBron and the overall industry are going to be fine.
Nice. Well said. All right, man. Congrats. Where does this acquisition rank all time in your collecting experience? Does it match the first time you got it, or where are you at?
No, the first time was way more nerve-wracking because that was like way more than I'd ever spent on a card. And then the gold refractor was more exciting because it was like the first time I flew to get a card. Honestly, this one was kind of like business, like more of a business trip. Like I'm kind of used to it. I think when you guys make your trips, to California and your roots, like aren't you kind of used to it at this point?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So like something really weird would have to happen. Some story of like where the card came from at this point. The fact that it was like a PWCC auction isn't like the most exciting news of all time. It wasn't like someone found it in a Goodwill box or anything crazy like that.
Sure. Nice, man. All right. Well.
Can you show the card one more time before we
Yep.
There we go.
And this one is not game used, Chris. I know you were pretty upset about that. You messaged me and you're like, "There's no like poo stains on the patch. Like, what are we doing?"
Yep, but these are the sacrifices we make for our PCs. All right, let's get to some questions here for today's show. So there was one question that came in. We'll use this question to wrap up the LeBron Mail Day. This came from Drake, Drake's PC. He says, "What's a fair market price for that card?" Drake says, "Josh has been picking up a ton of amazing LeBrons lately. What were these cards that were available during the bull run of 2020-2022, but at an insane price? Or did they just recently become available? And if they just recently became available, why do you think that the sellers are open to moving them now when LeBron's index is down over the last year? If these were Peyton Manning cards, I would be told how undervalued they are and that the sellers still want the 2021 prices."
I feel like the availability of these types of cards is the same today as it was over the last 2 years, if not less, because people aren't as willing to like sell when prices are going down. They feel like, I'm taking a loss, I don't want to do that. So like the same question that Drake always asks, it's kind of the same concept. But on this case, like what you're seeing that I've bought is like a small percentage of what I've offered on. If that makes sense. So like I'm not just like picking up every single thing that I come across. A lot of them were like, there was one that the guy was like, "Yeah, I want $80K, that's what I paid," and it's worth like $8. It's like, okay, well, next, just kind of move on. Go try to find one that's more reasonable. A few of these are auctions. Like this one was an auction. This one was an authentic. It was like a BGS authentic. I think people were just scared away by it. Didn't bother me. Whatever. A couple others came from one seller. I don't know. Just sort of, you just got to like stick to it. But it's been a few months, so I think I've only got like 6 in a few months. It's not like I bought that much.
For sure. Okay. Let's now get to some questions about the National. And also, can we, for my friend George, but also for just everybody in the hobby, can we do a public service announcement, or maybe just, first take debate style? You take one side, I'll take the other. Is it the National or the Nationals?
There's 2 sides to this?
Dude, people, I hear the Nationals all the time.
It's the National, because this isn't cheerleading, right?
Well,
Nationals is like a competition.
yes. What's the movie where they do the cheerleading and they go to the Nationals? Maybe that. Sorry?
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Bring it on. That must be what people are thinking of.
It's the National. Because, if you just go to their website, like it says National with no S.
Yeah. And the National is an abbreviation of the National Sports Collectors Convention.
Sports collectors, so not. Never mind.
Cheerleading?
Not cheer. Well, that's a sport. That's more of a sport than some of the other things we're going to see at this thing.
That's true. Yeah. There may be some cheerleading signers there, perhaps.
So I think the Nationals kind of rolls off the tongue better. Like when you're speaking to someone, it's easier to say nationals.
It is.
I feel like.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's probably it. People are just lazy.
All right.
I think the only time you can call it nationals is when you're talking about multiple events. Like, I've been to 5 nationals total.
That would be correct because then you're just pluralizing it.
Correct.
All right.
It's not an archery competition. I thought you were gonna, because I saw Justin was in the chat. I wanted to make sure we got to giving credit to that episode before he jumped out, or at least made some joke about, shoes and deodorant.
Yeah, well, here we go. Here's the first national related question. What advice do you have for going to the national? So, what do you say?
Comfy shoes. Battery phone charger.
Yep.
Cash is king. I think I've heard that before.
Yep, cash is king. And if people really want an in-depth on this topic, check out Jake Roy's 90s Speedball Cards channel on YouTube. He had Ivan Lovegren, Dr. Beckett, and the great 610 Sports Cards as a panel to discuss preparing for the National with lots of tips and depth and so on.
One thing, okay? Pack your own snacks because I've heard people promising snacks, but they're not actually going to give out snacks.
Good. Yes.
Yeah, because I verified. They will not be giving you snacks.
There you go. Don't trust the advertisement of snacks at the booth.
Yeah.
And it is difficult to get away and go to the food areas. Like having snacks in your bag is helpful. No, but seriously, we like to make fun of Justin, but it is good content. Nice reminder. Go check it out. I wanted to answer this question seriously. I feel like there's a lot of chatter of is it worth it to go to this financially, or things along those lines? Is it worth it to split a hotel room? Is it worth it to go if you're not going to be selling cards, stuff like that? I think this is the one thing a year that's for sure worth it, no matter what happens. Because you're going really for the spectacle of being there, seeing your friends, just feeling the energy of a sports card show, and this is the biggest and best one. So I think it's worth it if you can make it. Don't worry about making up for the financial side of it if you can afford it, obviously, but just go to have fun.
Yeah. On that point, it's not all about just it's not all about just going to improve the PC or make a deal. It's not all about going to see friends and hang out, although those two things I just listed are usually big parts of most people's experience. It's also research for how to think about our industry and our hobby and to get a sense of which direction the arrow is pointing. I think that's one of the main reasons I love to be there, is I just like to survey things. I like to ask every dealer I see that's willing to chat with me, how's your business been? What cards are doing well for you? What aren't? How do you feel about the state of our hobby going forward? What advice would you give a hobby newcomer? I look at it like that. I look at it as a project. What do you think about if somebody's on the fence about going or not, especially because if you don't know a lot of people there, or if this is your first national? To me, that's a great way to make it worth your while, is to treat it as an opportunity to gather as much information as you can from people on the ground in the hobby to help form an opinion and a thesis about what direction the hobby's going in and what to expect over the next few months of the next year.
Yeah. I love this take because especially over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of push towards AI and tech and spreadsheet data and, card ladder data, sales history. That's what should be driving where the market's going. But I like the take of you need to get out there yourself and kind of see and feel what it's like. And the point you said of asking dealers, I think is the best way. It's the single best data point that exists in the hobby of how things are going. The dealers are the ones who are on the floor, having people come to their table, doing the most transactions in person, we get the best feedback from dealers on like what features they want to see in card ladder. You should get the best feedback from them in terms of how the market's performing. Are they selling cards at full price? Are they having to like go back and forth a lot in deal making? Are they having trouble getting people to look at certain types of cards? You know, are they able to make trades? There's all these types of questions you can ask them. And I think whenever I'm at the shows with you, you do a really nice job of kind of like engaging with the dealer and making it feel valuable for everybody. And like you said, doing the research and seeing what comes out of it. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Next question from Patriot Sports Cards. Do you plan to keep an eye on and bid on auctions that will be ending online during the week of the National and hope to find some deals? Hashtag the National Week discount.
I kind of want to see what you and Christina say while we're there. So I love watching you guys view the sales every night. It's one of my favorite pieces of like being back with you guys in person is watching that. So I'm just fascinated to see what you guys say while that's happening. Of like, hey, we're noticing the auctions are ending lower. Is it because of National, et cetera, or are they going higher because everyone's thinking the same thing? You know?
Yeah. Do you have something to say on this?
I heard my name and I was answering chat and I didn't catch what was first
no,
said.
you're okay.
So I was turning around to give it my undivided.
Okay, all right. Do you remember when we were at the Dallas Card Show in May of 2021? And there was a big, I think PWCC Premier auction that was ending. And I remember after the show, we were hanging out with some people at a restaurant or something, or like, I think you even had a laptop pulled up and you were bidding or something. Do you remember this?
Yeah, we were at like a sports bar and I had my laptop. I was trying to win something. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it's going to be like that, if anything, right? Like all the attention, the energy is going to be on the experience in the show. But then at the end of the day, you know, especially if we've got our saved searches and our watch list set up on eBay or whatever, like we're still going to be trying to find ways to put those bids in. But it's tough, dude, because like it's tough to sometimes get reliable reception at the on site or in any place where there's like thousands of people gathered at like a trade night or something. If I were a seller, there's not a chance in hell that I would set up any of my items to end at auction during the National, mainly for that reason. And, you know, to the point of the question, there probably will be some deals to be had if you're able to stay disciplined and keep an eye on it.
Do you think the National, this is like a silly question, I think, but do you think the National is going to have any sort of impact on the excitement leaving the National and like potentially we see some of these indexes tick up, some post-National excitement, or is that just like one of those, after the Super Bowl, it doesn't actually make prices go up. It's just a nice thought.
It's possible. I'll use this as a chance to say, if you make a significant purchase or sale at the National and you'd like that data point to be recorded, please do report it to us. And that's as simple as sending a DM or an email to someone on the Card Ladder team or the Card Ladder account. And then we're going to have some follow-up questions for you and some proof is going to be needed. But, so like that's one thing I just want to say right now is there will be big deals made at the National. If anybody wants to disclose them, I encourage you to. The thing about indexes is that total market indexes are very different than an index that has 50 component parts that were specifically selected because they in some way represent pricing trends as on a whole, theoretically. All total market indexes are going to trend towards zero. And the reason for that is they're never going to go to zero, but there's a gravity of zero that's pulling at them because there's constantly new cards being added to them and none being taken away. So it would be to make the analogy to the stock market, please forgive me. In the stock market, we don't have total market indexes because if we did, they would all be trending towards zero because so many companies that have an IPO and have a stock price for a period of time eventually go out of business. So if we had a total market stock market index, it would be trending towards zero over time. But we don't use that index as a representation of what to think about the stock market. We look at something like the S&P 500, which looks at the 500 large cap stocks and keeps an eye on how they're performing. And if something falls out of that list, they remove it. If something moves up into the list, they add it in terms of the top 500. So I would say look at the CL50. Look at the CL50 for a snapshot of how is pricing operating in the hobby on the level that somebody who cares about card values would be interested in. Look at that. And if you want to look at total market indexes, that's cool too. I love this. We love total market indexes. They're interesting. You know, browse these thousands of football cards and stuff and sort of try and find which pieces are doing what. The 615 Collector podcast has done stuff like this where they'll dig into the indexes and look at which cards are moving in which direction. So with that said, I wouldn't necessarily expect total market indexes to respond in any other way than a general downtick. And if they're not generally ticking down over time, that's remarkable. That's something to sort of keep an eye on as something unique is happening there. But like the card letter 50 or, you know, an index that's trying to capture some sense of like where are the prices going for the cards that most people collect, I could see that taking a positive turn. All right, I said a ton of stuff. What do you think about your question, Josh?
All I heard you say was that the Trae Young market is bringing down the basketball index. That's what I heard.
Exactly.
Is that that's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Like we keep cards in of players that are like the Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Remember that card went up to like $90 and then it's now basically zero. Like we don't take those out, you know? So like those cards keep trending to zero.
Great example.
Yeah. I think what people are looking for though, like the back of my mind, the question I'm asking is like people are kind of looking for that next sort of like event or thing to kind of spark the next big excitement in the hobby. And there's hopefully not another pandemic coming. I feel like this national is going to be a big deal, man. I don't want to like hype it up too much in terms of like all your cards are going to double in value after the national, but this is like the first real national since 2019.
And it's bigger than ever. Like the floor space itself is huge.
They expanded the space. Have you seen the new floor plan? It's way bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've added like 2 different sections.
Yeah, like the market's crashing. Our hair's on fire, and the national's like bigger. You know, and last year was tough. You know, with Atlantic City, the year before, 2 years before that, were COVID. This just kind of feels like the coming out party a little bit. Like the hobby is back. Maybe I'm just building that up myself. I don't know if you feel the same.
No, I mean, I like the point that this is the first national since 2019 that's, you know, that feels like it's back to some semblance of normal. And what do you, we didn't go to the 2019 national.
No, you were welcome.
Yep, I was doing a summer.
This is like your first national, bro. Is that what you're saying?
This is my first national. So it's what was the 2019 national like? Big picture.
Well, that was like pre-COVID, pre-hype, pre-everything. It honestly was just like a nice, relaxing, normal national with everybody there, and that's where I bought that Jordan PMG for $20K. So I mean, one sold last night for $200K. You know, so it's still like a very different world we're living in today.
Yeah.
But you were
Yeah. It is.
2021 was pretty normal. You know, like we were coming down from the COVID stuff. We still had masks for a lot of people. Like I was incredibly sick of that. Now everyone was getting sick. Like it was still kind of a weird thing. A lot of people, like international guys, couldn't make it over for that one. So like it'll be, you know, a pretty decent bump over that one. But that one was like, I guess, kind of close.
Yes. Okay. All right. Lefko, are you going, buddy? Let's go. All right. Next question here at the National is, from WTF Frankie podcast. He says, what's an event that you would rather attend than the National? I personally am attending a Taylor Swift concert in Levi's Stadium with a friend that weekend, and it's actually cheaper for me to attend than going to Chicago for the whole weekend.
NBA Finals, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Look, Frankie, I don't know what you're doing with this question, buddy.
Did Josh just say the WNBA finals?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I watch the Indiana Fever battle it out with the Team B.
Yeah, well, Frankie, I don't know what you're up to here, man, but it's unfair stacking the deck with Taylor Swift against them.
Would you rather go to a Taylor Swift concert or the National, Chris?
Yeah, the jury's out. I'm going to have to think really long and hard about that one. And maybe we can come back to it next week.
I'm pretty sure I cannot picture you at a Taylor Swift concert, so I think we know.
What are those little things called where you break them and then they glow sticks? You can see with some glow sticks out there?
Well, I know that it's going to be pretty packed at the Taylor Swift concert. There's not going to be enough room for you to do the dad wide stance stand, so I think that might be tough.
Yeah, that dad wide stance. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to pull that out for the Chicago National. It's going to be a lot of people in there.
I saw a TikTok that had now I'm calling it the dad wide stance because there was he was filming his dad that was 20 feet away and he was just doing that power stance. He's like, this is the dad stance. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the Chris stance.
All right, let's see here. What else do we have? Basketball card collector 93.
I can, the raves or you're doing all glow sticks. So that's gonna be you at the Taylor Swift concert.
Basketball card collector 93 says, "What card are you looking most forward to seeing or hoping to see at the National?"
Oof. All the stuff that I want, I won't see there. That's what I'm hoping. I don't want to see stuff. I mean, it's too easy to find. I don't know. It'd be cool to find maybe one card for the PC. That'd be nice. So I'll keep an eye out.
I'm looking for Prism Blacks of any player I'll look at. And let's just keep it there. I'm looking for some Prism Blacks. Hopefully I can find something that I don't see on eBay.
I answered the comment.
She did.
Okay, nice. I don't think we need to guess it, what her answer is.
I saw the first word in her response. She's like, don't need to read the rest of this one.
Exactly. Okay. Hometown Authentics. Last national collection. Hometown Authentics says, I'm going to my first national this year. I've had quite a few people tell me that Cleveland is better than Chicago. What are the reasons? What are the reasons for this?
Look at David's comment. That was the highlight of my trip. I literally whispered to Chris, I was like, I think they're going to kick you out of here, man. We were at a high-end steakhouse. I was like, I think they're going to kick you out. You're like, they're not going to fucking kick me out, bro.
David says, I can't wait to go to dinner with Chris at Mastro's and see him walk in with a Nuggets hoodie and a tearaway sweats with slides. Whoa, bro, who said I'm dressing up? We're keeping this light.
You had shorts at one of them. They weren't even pants. What was the question? Why is Cleveland better? It's because it's bigger. I haven't been to Cleveland since 2018, but it was massive. There was so much room to walk around. It was unbelievable.
Awesome. Never been to Cleveland.
You can wide stance all day long, baby.
Cleveland is the wide stance of hobby venues.
It's huge. It was like a former army tank hangar or something like that. I don't know the terminology for that, but it was meant to house tanks and stuff. So it was just a huge space.
Nice. All right. Now to the rest of the question pile. Ben Cross Country Runner 1 says, someone is holding your entire collection hostage, and the only way you can get the cards back is to convince the card napper to start collecting and convince them that this is a great hobby. But you cannot use making money as part of your argument. What would you say to the card kidnapper?
Well, Ben is in the chat, and I already feel bad because my answer, and I think it's the same one you've done before, which is like we are not in the business of like convincing someone to join the hobby. Like we feel like you have to kind of come into it wanting to do it yourself. That's the best way to stick with it. But do you want to maybe play? You have something to like throw at me here, like an elevator pitch? Okay.
Yeah, because I'm not going to fight the hypo, although I would love to. But I'm going to lean into the question here, and but before I do, I want to say this: money, value, it is part of the hobby. So like making a pitch for the hobby that is independent of the entrepreneurial opportunities that exist in the hobby is selling it short, no pun intended, in some ways. Okay, so I want to make that point because it is like it's a factor. It's an aspect of what this hobby is. It's the opportunity to flip or the opportunity to buy something and hold it for a period of time and speculate on its value going up. These are things that people in the hobby do. I mean, we have businesses, we have dealers, we have marketplaces that are predicated on the idea that these cards are valuable and that money is a factor. So I want to acknowledge that. But taking that part out of it, the parts of the hobby that are great are like, maybe I can use PSA set registry as a metaphor or as like a microcosm of what makes the hobby great. Because PSA set registry is not about values. PSA set registry is about accumulating cards that are on pre-made checklists and then trying to get the best version of each of those cards so that you get the highest score and you compete and you outrank other people. And that's a very fun part of this hobby, is like, first of all, deciding what should the checklist be. Who should the players be that are honored? What player do you care about? Or what player do you collect? Retired, modern, etc. The second thing that you should think that I think about then is, how do I compete? How do I, with my limited resources, how do I make the best splash I can? How do I most impactfully leave my mark? How do I build the best collection I can given the constraints that I have? And so like in the Michael Jordan group chat, in one of them, I asked people, what's your greatest collecting accomplishment that you've ever had? And got some really interesting answers from people. Some people's answer was like, one guy's best collecting experience was that he was able to buy a lot of cards, identify one card in the lot that he really wanted, and he said, I'm going to try and sell the rest of these cards and get enough money from them that I can keep for free the one that I really wanted. He did. And he said that was his favorite collecting experience. Now that involves money. So let me say a different collecting experience somebody had that doesn't. So MK Sports Cards has accumulated, I think, what in his mind is the top 20 Michael Jordan grails from the 90s. I think he's either accumulated it or he's like one card shy. And I asked him, I thought to myself, how many other people in this entire hobby can claim that they have those 20 cards? And I think we came up with a list of 3 people, and he's one of them, who has the top 20 Michael Jordan grails that we know of. That is something that makes me rethink my entire collection in a way that's fun and exciting. It's like, how do I get my name at the highest point of the shortest list that matters to me? So that's the direction I would take that question. Is that like that spirit of building a great collection is maybe one way to explain to somebody why the hobby's great.
So you're in the Logan Roy legacy building side of the world.
Yeah, yes.
Yep, I like that. 2 call outs from the chat to help me answer this question. One, Lefko chimed in, and he gave the answer I always love to give, which is, who's your favorite player? Because my favorite part of collecting sports cards is just like the one you said, the like, the building the collection, trying to like be the best at collecting a certain thing, but also like the connection to the player, I feel just gets much stronger. Like, would you be as big of a Jokic fan as you are without your collection, a Luka fan, It just like gets more skin in the game of rooting for that player. It gets you more excited to watch sports. And sports are just like such a massive phenomenon today. You made that argument a while back of like how these are like our new heroes, superheroes relative to like businessmen from the previous era and like literally like comic book heroes. Sports just keep growing, dude. It's a huge industry. And so this is kind of our way to like connect to that further. And then also in the chat, I think it's eights are great. I don't want to mess it up. Let me scroll up. He says, I usually listen to the podcast version of this over the weekend. This is so much better seeing the comments. You're welcome to the show. It's like a different show, right? It's literally a different show. If you listen to this in the podcast, you're getting audio, you're getting us giggling, but if you can like see all the funny comments and all the like savagery that goes on in the comments, it's a different show.
Absolutely. I was thinking on that point, the connection to the athlete point, it is similar in that way on some level to fantasy sports, and that like you really follow players much more closely, you care about them, you become more invested in their accomplishments as a fantasy sports team owner. But the difference with cards, and the thing that I like more about cards, is that you're somewhere in between carrying on the level of a fantasy sports team owner and an actual team owner and like a player agent or something. Like you're somewhere in between all three of those realms, because when you have the card, you're not just into that card for a season and then you have to redraft your entire collection next year and then you redraft your entire collection next year after that. Instead, you're breeding and imprinting a loyalty onto your own heart and mind of a player and their personal story and their athletic career and so on and so forth. And that's like a good thing, I think. I think that's a good feeling. It's just a good level to be at as a sports fan, is when you really have that loyalty to something. And we're all born geographically or from some family tie into having a loyalty to a team or a region or a university. But here you sort of get to make your own destiny. You get to choose the player that you want to have that loyalty to, and then you get to build it and see how it grows over time.
Yep. You can put a literal dollar amount on how much you like a player more than somebody else. I like LeBron a lot more than everyone else. I got way more money invested in him than everyone.
Right.
Yes, it's interesting.
Exactly. Okay. Stacking Gems says, what are your thoughts on the Lord of the Rings 1-of-1 bounty for $2 million? Is this insanity? Is it FOMO or what?
So this is the Magic. It's a Magic card with like a Lord of the Rings collab, right? Something like that.
Sounds right.
Christina's nodding her head.
Yeah,
I hope.
she says yes.
I've heard it's a massive deal. You and I clearly are like hesitant to go into this topic. I'm sensing, because we don't know much about it.
Yeah.
But I've been told it's like the only serial numbered Magic card, I think, to exist, and it's a 1-of-1. There's bounties, and it's like a legit like chase. It kind of feels like the triple Logo Man chase, where it's like people really actually freaking want this card because it is serial numbered and everything else is not. Pokemon, that's been the biggest struggle for me with Pokemon, is like nothing's serial numbered. So it's like, I feel like I buy something and I get a PSA 10 and all of a sudden there's like 1,000 of them the next week. It's just like, it's not as exciting. But if there is an actual chase, maybe Magic will get so much excitement around this that they, do more of this kind of thing. So it is kind of an interesting little fork in the road we might be at with this stuff. So it is fascinating.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know much about this at all. It seems like a gigantic bounty.
There's tons of fakes. Tons of fakes. I did hear that.
Oh my god. All right.
The one cool thing about it, though.
Hey, you've been requested to make an appearance on camera. Now she goes as slow as possible.
The one thing that's cool, though. Okay, so with Magic, I'm still learning, but we have TCG researchers, and they're slowly teaching me. There are some serial numbered cards, but they're like promo or like you buy them like direct, where you get like a bonus pack when you buy direct. Like it's not like in boxes. So like there's that. And then like the one thing about this though that is like really cool is that Lord of the Rings, like the fact that it's one of one and it's the one ring to rule them all, one ring to bind them, one ring to find them.
Shit.
Like so
What about that?
yeah, so like that's like it's like beyond Magic now, and it's like going into the Tolkien fandom, and there's so many there's so many like Lord of the Rings like nerds like myself who would like be really excited about this card. Would I pay $2 million for it? No. If I pulled it, would I keep it if someone's offered me $2 million? Probably not. I would just like get a replica ring made after claiming the $2 million bounty.
Can you find the card, Chris, if you're able to Google search it? Or maybe Christine can help you. Let's see what this fucking thing looks like.
Let's see here.
I forgot about the one ring shit. That's actually kind of sick.
Bounty.
I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan too, Christina. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I actually like don't like Star Wars at all, but I love Lord of the Rings. Whoa, that's actually pretty sick. Oh shit. So that is like it's like Elvish script on it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, everything's in Elvish too. Yeah.
That's sick.
There it is.
Cool.
I do think it's. I presume it's like very shiny.
Yeah.
Is that fair to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I have the same answer as Christina. It'd be really cool to pull it. It's not worth $2 million to me, but it is cool.
Yeah. All right. Let's. All right. Let's. I'm afraid I'm with David on this one, but all right. Let's go here. Iowa Dave, who has some new content. He's got a podcast that he's launched, and he does a really nice job of sort of curating and grabbing content that people put out on a regular basis and reposting it and keeping it updated. So shout out to Iowa Dave. His question is this: which of these 3 hypothetical situations do you think will have the greatest impact on the given player's long-term card market? A, Chris Paul winning a ring. B, Barry Bonds getting into the Hall of Fame. C, Patrick Mahomes winning the next 3 Super Bowls.
3 Super Bowls?
Yeah, 3.
That's got to be the answer, man. If he gets 3 more in a row, that's like he's already basically in the Brady conversation.
Yeah, I almost think, though, that sort of like the reason that was included and the reason the number was set at 3 is to say sort of, aren't those 3 already baked in, maybe? Is that maybe sort of what we're thinking here?
Yeah, dude, the Chris Paul one's like way off the radar, dude. He's like the 4th best player on that team. It's clearly like not his team. He had to join Steph Curry. I honestly don't even think it would add much to his legacy. I think his legacy is more built on the statistical prowess and his efficiency and just like his attitude to the game over so many years. This is jumping onto the Warriors. I don't think adds too much.
And then what about Barry Bonds getting into the Hall?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's more interesting that he's not getting to the Hall of Fame. It gives us like this rebel, anti-establishment thing where it's like, fuck the Hall of Fame. I know I'm the best or whatever. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't follow baseball that closely, so it's hard to have a strong opinion on that one. I'll tell you this: if Mahomes wins the next 3 Super Bowls, and by the way, he won the previous one, so that's going to be 4 in a row. Dude, that's Michael Jordan in the '90s, but he never won 4 in a row. I mean, that's like.
It's harder in football, I think, right? It'd be a little bit harder.
Dude, absolutely. Football introduces so much more randomness because of the one and done system that exists in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So
parity in the NFL is like, there's a reason you have every year a last place team vaulting into first. Like there's a lot of parity in the NFL. It would be so hard to win 4 Super Bowls in a row. Has that ever even happened in the modern era?
That's a great question. I can't think of it. 4 in a row? I don't think so, man. All right. Next question, Carlson Cards, who recently had Josh and myself on podcasts on his YouTube channel. He has a question for us. He says, if we collect 90s and 2000s cards, is there any reason to pay attention to what Fanatics is doing? I find myself carrying less and less each month, and I've been so much happier as a result. I just can't think of a scenario where new actions taken would affect my appreciation and excitement for the cards that I enjoy.
Yeah, I think what he's saying makes sense in a vacuum, and I've had similar thoughts, but I do think it's critically important. It's the brand. I do think it is. Yeah, I do think it is really important that Fanatics is successful, because the more excitement we have on the new products, the new releases, the more that excitement kind of like moves through the rest of the hobby, and then the more, I don't want to say that the reason is that it makes your card values go up, but like the more excitement there is in the hobby, the more fun we're all having. I think it's just going to, boost your mood to continue to collect the stuff you like. And as more and more people are focused on the new products, it kind of gives you this fun thing to, fun way to be different and still focus on your section of the hobby. I think the more the merrier, and the more fun, I think, is the take I would have here. If Fanatics hypothetically doesn't do well, and we stop having modern products, and the hobby like implodes because it sucks now, like that would, I don't know how you could have fun collecting your era if that was happening on the new stuff.
Yeah, those are good points. How about I try to make an analogy? And no analogy is perfect, but if you love the 90s and the 2000s, you don't care about cards that come out today, you're probably not alone. In fact, you're definitely not alone. But my analogy would be, that's sort of like somebody who loved 90s and 2000s basketball and who doesn't watch the sport today. And would their enjoyment of the sport be impacted if they just stopped, if the NBA ceased to exist and basketball stopped being played tomorrow? Would that matter to somebody who's a fan of the 90s and the 2000s? And I'm going to say yes, it would. It would matter because the cultural relevance of the sport and the new things that are being done in the sport continue to put an extra spotlight and an extra layer of relevance on the things that happened before. So it's interrelated in that way. What happens now, even if I don't watch the NBA, it still matters that, this next player is, how does he compare to my favorite players of my era? And where does this new great player rank all time relative to the greatest to ever do it, the greatest to ever play the sport? And I might think they're lower, and I might think they don't matter as much. But the fact that that's a discussion that's entertaining people, keep people interested, is good for the era that I care about as well. So, I would relate it on that level. But I also think, so the analogy isn't perfect because, let me not go down that path, but just the analogy isn't perfect because in cards, we could continue to live very happily and continue to have new people come in collecting cards from the 90s and the 2000s, and it doesn't matter to them at all that there's new cards being made of new players that they don't care to collect or they're not paying attention to. And it might even be better for the market of 90s and 2000s cards in the sense that there's not all these distractions and there's not all these new cards constantly being added to the pool. But, the other side of that coin, kind of what you were referring to, Josh, is that the new energy, the continued relevance, the continued, participation in the hobby that we get from the manufacturer side of things, it's an engine that drives everything on some level, I think.
Yep. Yeah, how can 90s basketball fans call the NBA soft today if there's no NBA to call soft?
Right. Yeah, exactly. JJ Redick had a tweet because during the draft, one of his co-hosts was like, I mean, you were an average shooter, JJ, right? Like, and it made the rounds. And so then there was a tweet that came out from one of these like statistical Twitter accounts that said JJ Redick was like the only player in X amount of years to be top 5 in mid-range field goal percentage and 3-point percentage. And so JJ Redick quote tweeted it and said, I was the plumber of my era. Okay, so anyway, you made me think about that.
Did you see, I don't know if you got a question about this, but did you see the like rumor, it's kind of bullshit probably, but the like LeBron not on the upper deck list or whatever, and that he might potentially join Fanatics and have autographs again? This question reminds me of that because it's like, do I want new LeBron autographs coming out where if I wasn't going to collect them, does that hurt my excitement over having the old stuff, knowing that like people are distracted on this newer autograph stuff? Or does it like bring more attention to the fact that like it still isn't the original, you know, like it's still not the early playing days, and it potentially would be post playing days anyways. It wouldn't be playing days, like it's still not the same as like the exquisite stuff. So I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on it.
Well, which way? Yeah, there's 2 sides to it. Well, if they're not playing days cards, will they be of interest to you at all? Could you see a world where maybe this awesome set gets made that piques your interest in a way that like Michael Jordan has exquisite cards that are post-playing days, but because of the importance of exquisite, the fact that there was nothing really like exquisite during his playing days, I think there's collectors who make the exception for those.
Yeah. The reason I wouldn't be as interested, but if I were a Jordan collector, I would be interested in post-playing exquisite, is that he didn't really have anything like that when he was playing. You know, he had like some autographs and, you know, the one like jersey autograph card, but that was like a once, you know, there's only one of those. So no, I wouldn't be interested because he already has like a wide range of exquisite stuff that I'm plenty busy with.
For sure. Yep, I relate to that. That's definitely my approach to collecting as well. So, all right, we had a question about this new Michael Jordan card that this topic made me think of it, but I can't find the question, but I pulled up a picture of the card in advance just so we could talk about it. It's this, I believe this comes from the Goodwin Champions product. It's this new Michael Jordan card that apparently was pulled from a pack in China, and it's captured people's interest because in the spot where the autograph was supposed to go, he put an inscription, Air Jordan, and then he signed his actual name over the nameplate section of the card. So wanted to acknowledge this card as a post-playing days autograph card that people are discussing widely right now. I think the gist of the question was, what do you think about the card, basically? So
Is this like, it's not just a one-on-one, right? There's other parallels, you would assume? Or,
no,
you know.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, so that's like the one-of-one. There's probably like other ones. I think it's a neat card. That's about as close as you can get to piquing my interest on a non-playing days card of a player wearing a suit. You know, that's about as good as it can be.
Yeah. Carbon is.
He's going to a business meeting now. Like.
He is in a suit. Yep. Carbon says that we asked 1 million times, and MJ would never sign Air or Air Jordan. So that's, I think, part of the reason why people are so intrigued by this. I think people were trying to find any Jordan inscription cards, and it doesn't seem like there are many, if any at all. So I don't know. How do I put this politely? I don't give a shit about that card.
I think I would nitpick. I wish he would sign his name where he's supposed to and then put Air just like right under it. I don't like that he incorrectly said. It is neat. And I don't really give a shit either, but it's neat.
It is cool, man. It's cool. It's a nice hobby headline. It's something that people like and get excited about, and that's cool. And I'm happy for that. But I don't care one lick about that card at all. It's post-playing days. It's like what it's Jordan was drafted in '84. It's like a 39th year card. Come on, like this is a topic that I've been ruminating on recently. Maybe trying to think of a way to put some story posts together or something to communicate this point, but I haven't done it. Now more than ever, as collectors, we need boundaries and we need rules. And by boundaries, I mean creating a permissible area of things that we collect, and things outside of the boundary are out. And by rules, I mean a flow chart or a decision-making tree that allows me to be consistent with what I think is good or important as a collector. So boundary-wise for collecting, we are entering a period now where for the rookie classes of Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson, et cetera, on the basketball side, and for CJ Stroud and all the exciting prospects on the football side, that, Fanatics has exclusive autograph deals, and they've already been making a significant number of cards for these players. I believe Wembanyama has 6 cards from Fanatics related products already. And for me, I get nervous because I don't think we've ever had this situation where 2, $1 billion plus companies are aiming to dominate the markets in producing the cards for these extremely important prospects. And so I worry a great bit about overproduction. And so when I start thinking about concerns about overproduction, and we've heard a lot of concerns about overproduction over the last 5 years, I think this year, if more than any before, it's the time when I'm most concerned about an enormous amount of cards being printed and put into the supply. So how do we, as collectors, do what, for example, happened in the 90s with serial numbering, where the advent of serial numbering put limits on the amount of cards that could be made and collected, and those limits have proven immensely important and for collectors and for the preservation of the market, essentially, for cards. And so I look at some of the limits that I think, and one of them, which I've referred to before, is playing years. When I limit my collecting to playing years, I know that there's a finite period of years of cards that are going to matter to me. Some of the other limits that maybe I don't apply necessarily because of the players I collect, but that I see other people apply, is firsts. First matter. So first year of a product is going to be more desired. Or rookie cards, which are the first cards that appear, those are going to be more desired. Now, we can imagine lots of other rules or boundaries that people put on their collecting. And I'm not here to say which boundaries and which rules are right, but I am here to say that it's important to impose those now and to think about them carefully and to construct a logical system of rules that you can consistently apply. And I look at it and I say, whatever the rules or the boundaries that collectors are putting, they're putting them because it limits what the manufacturer can do. It limits the possibility or the threat of a junk wax era raining down upon us again. So, all right. Sorry.
Yeah. This is why over the years I've been so vehemently against college products, like especially because you're trying to jump into the hype of a player as soon as you possibly can. This would be the first card ever released of Zion in a Duke jersey, and people were just really excited to get into the Zion hype earlier than anybody. Like, I can't wait for NBA. I got to get in there now. And then, of course, that stuff just comes crashing down. It's because, like, there's a massive boundary around the licensing. And so when you have college products or, the Wembanyama situation with Fanatics where he's not going to be wearing NBA jerseys, if we put our money towards that and we as a community saying, like, this is something we value, they're going to just keep making more of it and more of it. And other companies are going to jump in and be like, oh, we don't, Leaf, we don't even need anything. We don't need their signature. We don't need we just put a picture of them, obviously, like, you need permission for some of that stuff. But, like, you know what I'm saying? If we don't put these restrictions, like you're saying, as collectors on these companies, they're just going to start creating all kinds of crazy stuff. And we got to be sticking to the rules of, like, we want NTRPA license autograph of the player. We want the Prism gold and black. We want we want XYZ, and we stick to those rules. It's going to be better for everybody in the long run.
Exactly, man. It's hard. It's like a hard concept I just learned to try to explain. I thought you explained it well. I'm with you on the college uniform stuff.
Terrible.
Yeah, but here's the thing. There is another side to this. So we actually had a question come in from Tiger Jordan 311, which says lots of people are huge college sports fans. So why are college cards not more popular? And do you want to? I mean, you've spoken to this. Do you want to, in your answer, but maybe take this one head on in light of what we just said?
There's a big difference between collecting like a college representation of a player who's established in the league who also has licensed professional products available to choose from. That's a big distinction to the example I gave, which is like the hype driven of like, I've got to get this because I'm impatient and I can't wait for the licensed product. Even though when I know the licensed product comes out, I'm not going to give a fucking shit about that college anymore, right? If you can collect them at this, when they both are an option, it makes sense. Like I'm an Ohio State, I know that Ryan, card collector 2, loves collecting Ohio State cards. And so he's going back and like looking for his favorite Ohio State players and collecting. That makes sense to me. But to like want to jump in because you're impatient and you want to buy Bryce Young, Alabama stuff now because you think you can capitalize on the hype of Bryce Young, and you don't want to wait for National Treasures and you don't want to wait for Prism to come out, like you can flip it. I think that's a dangerous precedent we're setting.
Yep. My interest in this question comes purely from the point of view of protecting the fundamentals of collecting and protecting things like scarcity, rarity, the limit of supply, keeping honest and true to that. And so I understand that there are huge college sports fans. Perimeter Collectibles says in the chat that Reggie Bush, Vince Young, and other players' college uniform cards outsell their pro cards.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's where the legacies were built.
Absolutely. That's great. The reason why the college uniform question is interesting to me is simply on the level of how do we draw boundaries around what we want to collect as collectors and whether or not we're going to let college uniform cards into the fence that we built around the permissible cards that we as collectors decide are permissible for our collections. And then where do we rank them? That's why that's such an interesting question to me. And the concern of, does it open a slippery slope? Well, what about high school cards? What about post-playing years cards that depict the athlete in their second or third career? Or,
yep.
And the slippery slope argument is a fallacy, to be clear. I'm not saying that the slippery slope applies, but what I'm saying is that it gets me thinking on that level, and it gets me thinking about my own collection, about what are the boundaries that I'm going to put on things, and then how am I going to rank the desirability of stuff that's in the sandbox of permissible cards that I've scoped out.
Yeah, I think we've hit this topic enough.
Yeah. Okay. Grip and rip cards. I know I'm going to get some DMs about this one afterwards, but we're going to go ahead and go with it. Because this guy's attempted to ask the question a few times, and I'm glad we're able to get to it today. He writes that I'm facing a collecting dilemma. I've downsized my collection recently, but the issue I'm having is that all the players that I want to collect have hideous cards. The late 90s and early 2000s hockey cards are truly ugly. Parentheses, that's the part that I think some people are going to take issue with. So he continues, do I suck it up and collect the gross-looking paper cards of the players I love? Or should I pick a more modern player that I like to reap the benefits of collecting better-looking cards? Love the show. Keep it up.
You're going to get DMs because you think you're going to take the unpopular stance here?
Oh, I don't even know what I'm going to say yet. But I think that people are going to say, what do you mean late 90s and early 2000s hockey cards are ugly?
Oh, I see.
There's nice looking cards from that era. I think I've seen some of them myself. I'm not a hockey player.
But you can take the question and apply it, more generally. It doesn't have to like be a shot at like specific. This is like one of the dilemmas I've faced with wanting to collect Roger Federer tennis. Like I just felt like all of his cards sucked, so I just never even bothered. It's like these cards are stupid. Same thing as the last topic, like the licensing was weird. There was no brand that I could get behind that like made sense. The cards were ugly, so it's like don't bother. I would say to this person, same thing. Like if it's gonna bother you, it sounds like you wouldn't even have fun. Like if you're buying something you don't even like, you're not gonna have fun with it. You're gonna hate it. A year from now, you're gonna regret it, and you're gonna want to sell everything. So I would say don't even start. And I would say find another player and see if you can. I just like when you're assessing a player, don't you take into account like the rookie cards you have to choose from and the brands that represent that player? I know with Jokic, he was missing a few of the big rookies, so that might have played into it, but he had enough where he felt good about it. Isn't that like a huge part of like the collecting experience of getting started with something?
Totally, man. There's I think there are two poles of that, two polar extremes, and then we all exist on a continuum in between them, which is on the one hand you have your collector brain that is purely theoretical. It doesn't care at all about aesthetics. It just cares about history and thoughts. It just cares about what the symbol of this item is, not what it looks like, not the aesthetic of it. I think like memorabilia collectors are sort of in this world of like, this item might have a poop stain on it, and blood all over the place, but I'm not collecting it for its aesthetic value. I'm collecting it because it's an important piece of history, and that conceptually excites me. The concept, the idea of the item, not the item itself, but the idea of the item. And that's one extreme. It's like people who are purely conceptual. I just like this item because of the concept of it. And then you have the other extreme, which is I don't care what the concept is at all. What does it look like? What is the aesthetic of this item? How beautiful is it? How well designed is it? How good is the artwork? I don't care what player it is. I don't care what product it is. I don't care what set it is. What does it look like first and foremost? And then you have we all land somewhere on that continuum of maybe I care a lot about the concept, but it still has to look okay. Or maybe you're right in the middle. Concept matters to a degree. Aesthetic matters to a degree. Or maybe you really like aesthetic, but the concept still matters to you a little bit. You still need it to be a player that you care about, or from a set that matters historically. And I'm constantly trying to figure out where I am on the spectrum.
I bet you are.
I'm really trying to figure out where you are on that spectrum as well.
I bet you are. Doctors
So
are too. Doctors are trying to figure that out.
okay. So like I'm applying that here to say, grip and rip. I would say figure out where you land, and it sounds like you already know. It sounds like you lean a little bit towards the aesthetic. That's something that matters a lot to you. Is that, and so because there are, even within cards, there are people who there are people who collect hideous cards, but they love the card because it was like the first ever, or it came from some super limited overseas print.
Mm-hmm.
That there was somebody who paid. There was I think it was a Honus Wagner card that had been ripped in half, and it brought like strong six figures at auction not that long ago. That's a person who is into that, is a concept person. An aesthetic person is like, it's ripped in half, but the concept person is like, oh, this is cool. There's a story. This is a piece of history. It still is the card, so on and so forth.
Remember that like Michael Jordan, was it like a think it was called like the Yugoslavia card or something. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, that's the card that came to my mind.
Yeah, it was like, God, that card is absolutely hideous. But someone's like, it's the first card of, or whatever the story was. I can't remember what it was. The first of something, and it was like an oversized card. It was ridiculous looking. It wasn't even like an American product, and it was like, and then have you seen that like Olympic auto that's been selling recently? I think that was like his actual first on card auto or something. I don't know what the story is
Right,
there.
exactly.
I'm probably messing it up, but the card is hideous. The autograph's faded. It doesn't even make any sense. He's like wearing an Olympic jersey. It's so weird, but people like the concept of that it's earlier than the NNO auto, or it's earlier than some of his other autos. So
Exactly. Those are good examples. All right. Enjoy Cards _IG says, where do you see the 90s basketball card market 20 years from now?
20 years from now, man, what's like 5% increase over 20? Go to like some investing calculator and put in 20 years timeline with 5 years % growth each year. What does that put us at? That's what I would hope to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, that'd be great. That'd be more. I'd be thrilled at that. I'd be thrilled at that on so many levels. Number one, I'd be thrilled at that like hopefully the value of my 90s cards kept pace with inflation. That'd be great. And then on the second level, I'd love to be able to buy cards at that rate of appreciation as well, so that I can continue to collect stuff and it doesn't get out of hand. So
I do have one other take that we've probably discussed before. I think when some people ask this question, they're thinking like, oh, 90s kids, they're going to be older and they're going to be like potentially, not as viable to the hobby space, and they're going to be, fading away and not collecting as much, so that's going to mean the value. To that, I say, someone paid $450,000 for a torn in half Honus Wagner, and I'm guaranteeing you, not a single one of the people that have ever bought a Honus Wagner car watched him play, because he was like in the early 1900s or whatever. So there's always going to be some sort of market to have like the first of something, the first era of serial numbered cards, the first, parallels and inserts and refractors. And so the 90s is always going to kind of draw a large segment of the hobby space to that era, no matter what era you grew up in, or, maybe your parents grew up in the 90s or whatever the case may be. There's always going to be interest in 90s long term. So that's, maybe that wasn't the question or the spirit of it, but I'll take it there.
Totally. Yeah. If I'm looking for a reason to be optimistic about what the 90s will look like long term, one of the things I'm going to think about is the fact that the 90s was the era during which the most people were involved in the sports card collecting hobby. And even compared to today, I think the absolute number, I think the highest attended national of all time was still that early 90s national.
We're going to beat it this year. Let's go. People, get your asses out.
We'll see. Maybe we will. So, that's one thing that I think is really the 90s cards have going for the demand for them long term, is that there are so many people who will have a nostalgic connection to those cards. Many, probably more than any other era, past, present, or future. All right. Mad City Collector says, roughly how long after a product's release does it take for a set to decouple from the initial excitement, hype, and speculation and approach the true value to collectors?
Probably a couple months, or until like the next big thing comes out that replaces it,
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I just think that the assumption that undergirds this question is not quite right. I think it's a great question. I love the question. I love where the thought is going, but I want to challenge the assumption. I don't think that anything ever. I don't think that there's like this there's just this movement towards the true value, and that like as we just strip away the hype and we strip away the promotion and the influencer marketing and so on, and then eventually when we just strip it all away, we're just we're just there at the true value. I don't think it quite works that way. I get the concept of it. I think it's true that like we do need to take away the artificial interest. If we take away the artificial interest, what's the true interest level? But the true interest level isn't static. This is my point. This is where I think the assumption is needs to be challenged. The true interest level, the true values of collectors is not static. It can change dramatically. So let's go back to the 90s, for example. You have 90s products, 90s cards, 90s products, 90s cards, 90s stuff that has had its initial excitement, its initial hype, its initial speculation. It's long gone, long gone. And then here we are 20, 25 years later, and the true collector value for that stuff has never been higher. Well, no, that's not right. It was higher 2 years ago, but it's relative to where it was when it had its initial hype and excitement and stuff. It was much lower than it is today. So that's the thing that I just want to think about here, is that the true collector value is not stable either. The true collector value can change if a rookie emerges that's super important and does amazing things, or for some reason that set becomes desired or important, so on and so forth. That's what I wanted to say about that one. I agree, the bathtub. All right.
Just like no one's rushing to the bathtub in a situation where 10 guys are sharing a hotel room, but that's me. I agree with all your points. I was listening and not just giggling. I wanted to give my official crossover / card ladder warning. If you are jumping into young quarterbacks right now, be so careful, because I'm seeing so much activity around influencers talking about Desmond Ridder and like Sam Howell, and like, let me just tell you, I've seen a lot of cycles of football, and every time when the season starts, those guys' values start going down hard, because no one lives up to the hype expectation of preseason and NFL. No one. All these teams end up going like 3-2, 4-1. They've got bad games, 2-3. Freaking Lamar Jackson was like lighting the world on fire, I remember one year, and his card still like barely went up, and he was like early MVP. It was like that 2019 season where it was like, this guy's literally like gonna win MVP. He was like unanimous MVP, and it's still like his stuff was staying flat. You just got to be super careful. Yeah. So that's my warning. Good.
I hope we can talk about that topic more as we get maybe a little closer to the season. Football becomes more on the mind. It is funny that you pointed out like the lower tier, the super high risk tier of quarterbacks. It's applicable to like the Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa. I wouldn't say all those guys are the same tier, but it's applicable to those tiers of quarterbacks as well. Those guys' cards are trending up. I see Jalen Hurts cards setting all-time highs week after week right now when we're looking at sales and card ladder. Like quarterback, like it's not a well-kept secret that everybody thinks it's the best time to buy quarterbacks is during the offseason. Well, everybody's thinking that.
Well, just remember, like, the influencers that are buying those cards right now are the people with the most means to be able to quickly flip that stuff before the season starts. So, like, if you see those types of cards, just assume they're buying it right now, and they say that they make the post, hey, I've got $100K to buy Desmond Ridder. They're going to flip that stuff so fast, and they're just going to use their means to, like, buy it for 50 and sell it for 60 and get the hell out of there. So just be very careful about putting all your money into, even like Trevor Lawrence. I'm seeing a lot of that stuff is so risky right now, dude. Desmond Ridder, are you fucking kidding me? Sam Howell, I don't even know who that guy is. Dude, do you remember Monk last year, that Vikings guy? How'd that go? Like, come on, guys. Kellen Mond? My goodness. I didn't even get his name right. I forgot who his name is.
Exactly. That's a great call out. And dude, there's so many quarterbacks with such high expectations this year. It's like, dude, just go down the list of quarterbacks.
Desmond Ritter?
Dude, fucking Brock Purdy,
He's not even gonna play.
Aaron Rodgers, Trey Lance, like Justin Fields, Daniel Jones. Dude, there's like 20 quarterbacks that a decent chunk of people in the hobby, each quarterback has a decent chunk of people who think they're going to just win it all this year. And it's only going to be one, folks. It's only going to be one.
I think people are really latching on to that season where Patrick Mahomes at the end of 2017 played the last 2 games of the regular season and showed a little promise. The Chiefs got eliminated from the playoffs. Then they got rid of Alex Smith. He was lighting up training camp. There was a lot of buzz, and he fucking lit the world on fire in the first 6 weeks of that season. You remember that?
Yeah.
His first season as a starter to start the season. He broke the NFL record for touchdowns in the first. It was just oh my God, that shit ain't happening with any of these guys. That was a one-time deal. So people are thinking oh, it's gonna happen. That Mahomes thing is gonna happen again. That ain't happening again. That guy has 2 Super Bowls and he's 26 or 27 years old. That stuff does not happen. That's just a complete anomaly. So if you think that Sam Howell is going to be the next Patrick Mahomes, I mean, more power to you. Good luck.
Look, Stiff Arm Wax said in the chat that every team is going to the Super Bowl this year.
I'm even seeing Kyler Murray stuff up now, and I'm come on, the guy's out for the first 10 weeks. What?
I just wanted to get that on the record in case it's a title that we go with.
How bad do you feel for Brett, where he actually wants to get into the Richardson stuff, but there's no way you can. I'm just I told him yesterday, I was if you're on the ledge of buying something and you need help, text me, not Chris. 'Cause Chris will tell you to buy it. And you'll be do not buy that card.
Yeah, it's so true, man. It really sucks when you just want to collect the player because you like the player and he's a quarterback on your team and so on and so forth, and you can't, or at least you can't collect his best cards because those cards are being used as speculative tools, speculative instruments.
Right.
It really sucks. It's one of the downsides.
So he needs him to come out the gate and suck so that he can actually. It's just a lose-lose, you know.
Yep, it is.
Card.
I'm just gonna balance the conversation a little bit and say there is a world where there's enough football collectors and enough interest in football that the markets for at least some of these quarterbacks, especially the ones who actually are good, can be supported, even if those quarterbacks don't win an MVP or win the Super Bowl. There is a world where there's enough, but I'm not saying we live in that world. I'm just saying I can see that where there's enough interest that 10 of these quarterbacks or 6 of them or something can have real collector bases who are with them for the long haul and who, will enjoy collecting those players for a long time. It's possible.
We're we're talking about the guys who are ranked 25 to 30 in the quarterback tiers. It's we're not even to Daniel Jones. We're below Daniel Jones right now.
I know.
Cousins is over here blushing. What about me, guys? I'm pretty good still.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Name those 6. Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen,
Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Can I say Lamar Jackson? Can I just throw him in on this list? I think he's close.
T-Law, maybe.
Trevor Lawrence. And then, the guy that I'm secretly very high on, not as a collector, just as a fan of football, is Tua. Tua was amazing last year, and then he got hurt. And That's the only thing that makes me nervous about Tua is that
Herbert.
he could have concussion, so I don't know what he's going to be like this year. Yeah, Herbert. Herbert is a great one. Herbert is up there too.
You just named 8 guys.
Yeah, dude. There's enough. Let me make sure I'm just like not. And also like I saw Joe Poirot made a comment about Purdy. Yeah, dude. Purdy had a nice year last year.
He's also out for a lot, right? Like he's got a major injury.
Yes, that's the thing. Well, we know that about football, but we overlooked it. Like Russell Wilson, like he's done enough for his career. He might have Justin Fields. Yep, we haven't. There's guys out there, man. We didn't.
There's more teams.
Deshaun Watson.
There's way more teams right now that are like feeling like they have their guy for sure, or they're excited about their guy, or then teams that have no idea what they're doing at quarterback. It just seems like every team has got at least something to be excited about in terms of quarterback.
Absolutely. Like I forgot to put on my list, but I would put this guy like number 3 or number 4 on my list. Jalen Hurts, the guy who like was one stupid fumble away from winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like he was so good last year. Lots of guys. Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones. I mean, dude, you can make a case for a lot of quarterbacks. A lot. All right.
All the rookies, people are excited about those guys. Obviously, they just drafted them. They've got to be excited about them.
True. Okay, this question sort of relates, so I'm like fast forwarding to it a little bit. It comes from Jose, JGP Collectibles. He says, why do people want comps to follow a formula that is based on player performance? They'll make a case that a certain player is undervalued or overvalued based on stats or on-court, on-field play, but they completely overlook the love that the player has off the field. Shouldn't style of play and how polarizing a player is, shouldn't that be taken into account more as opposed to looking only at statistics when determining value?
It's the same kind of like spectrum thing, you know?
Yes.
Like, where do you value? Because I point to Dennis Rodman. That dude, he's got great stats. Don't get me wrong, but his value is like way more leaning towards the personality and the polarizing effect of Dennis Rodman. And there's lots of players like that. Dennis Rodman stuff sells for like more than Shaq in a lot of cases. You know, it's like his stats aren't even close to Shaq.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely a good enough amount of examples where what he's saying has already been happening.
Yep. But, love the question, love Jose. I know what he's getting at. Here's my pushback, gentle pushback on it.
You're so gentle with me.
Okay. Dude, stats, like, I don't understand why stats get separated from outcome. As if to say, like, well, you have the stats and then you have the outcome to the game. Dude, the outcome to the game is a stat. It's a score on a scoreboard. It's numbers. It's one number against another, and the number that's bigger than the other one wins. What do you guys think stats are? What do you think stats are? Stats are numbers. And the number that's more impressive than the other number is more heralded by people who like stats. So that's a little rant that I like to get off my chest from time to time. Stats are the language of sports. If you don't like stats, go do figure skating, where you can judge the eye appeal of the performance. Because professional sports leagues like baseball, basketball, and football are stats. They are numbers on a board. All right. And then
it's got to be a title. Go do figure skating.
Stats are numbers. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
That was my favorite rant that I had my back and forth with Eddie. He'd be like, it's all about the eye test. Stats are stupid. I'm like, but you talk about how many championships and like who has more wins. That's a stat too.
Indeed. Okay, I like what Ankesh said in the chat. He said that the the resistance to stats is basically an attempt to push subjectivity over objectivity.
Yeah.
Which is something I agree with. And that's okay though. Subjectivity is fine. To the point of the question, to the point that Jose is making, to the point that you're making with regards to Dennis Rodman, that's fine. That's great. People can collect based on more things than just we are not boxed into like you must collect the player who has the most wins or you must collect the player who has the best stats. We are not boxed in like that in the hobby. We can make subjective decisions based on whatever the hell we want to base it on. All right. Okay, a little bit of time left here. Vinny Slabarino, we always have to get to Vinny. He says, always enjoy the show. Have you ever passed on a card because of the way that it sits in the slab? For example, sometimes the card just doesn't sit squarely within the frame, or sometimes it seems like the grading company used the wrong size holder. Do you buy the card anyway and just have it reslabbed?
Yeah, if it's that important, just reslab it. Get it.
Yeah.
I had a card that I bought that I really wanted that the slab had the wrong year on it. The flip, the label, it was the wrong year, and I sent it in, put in the notes like, hey, this is the wrong year. Can you fix the label, reholder kind of deal? Ended up with a brand new slab. Was thrilled about the card. It was fixed. Now I have the card I wanted. I felt like I got it at a little bit of a slight discount, because it was like an annoyance, but I would go for it if you need it.
Yep, agreed. Cali Dreamin' 84, that's our guy Joe. He says, what factors might you consider if you were deciding to start a player to PC who is not a star athlete, non-star? What would you look at?
Their rookie year, the brands they have to choose from for their best cards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they currently active? Are you subject to like potentially buying and their prices go down because they're earlier in their career and it's risky? I don't know. Those things.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that's right. That's definitely what I would be looking at too. All right. Leather helmet cards. This will be a little treat because I have an idea on this that I'm going to give, and I'm sure you might too. This is a treat for the late listener. Leather helmet cards says.
It's like a radio DJ now. The late listener here on the late hours here on the show.
All right, he says we joke around about ChatGPT, but
yeah, we do.
Yes, we do. But what role could you see artificial intelligence playing in the hobby to support the experience and the information that collectors want to obtain? And what are some of the risks that you might see? So I have an answer that I premeditated.
No, let's go. Let's hear it. You're ready.
Right. So if you understand how language models like ChatGPT work, they take a data set, they figure out the probability of different words appearing next to each other, and then they make this big probability chart. And then when you give it a prompt or a query, it looks at the probability chart and it decides which words it wants to put next to each other based on the information that you're querying it for. All right. So like if you're looking to get like a math question answered, you're going to put certain math words together. It's going to go to the probability board. It's going to notice that these words have appeared next to each other. It's going to spit out an answer, and it's likely going to get it right because it's a brilliant piece of research that has, artificial intelligence in this concept is incredible. The way that they've hacked the insights of language by noticing probability of words appearing next to each other. Okay, so if you understand that's what's going on underneath the hood, similar to that meme that Elon Musk tweeted maybe a week or two ago, right? You pull up the mask and artificial intelligence, and it's just statistics underneath. It's just stats. That's what it is at its core. All right, so how can we use this in the hobby? Well, here's one question that I have a lot. It's a pain in the ass to answer that a language model could answer for me if we trained it on the right sorts of checklists and written hobby content or hobby data. And that is, if I want to know something like how many
Are you sure you want to say this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not building a language model. Josh, I don't think our team is building a language model anytime soon.
I don't know. Like,
She's like, I did all that building up to it, now I don't get to do it. No, I'm gonna do it. I don't care. A question that I have sometimes, like, how many optic golds exist of Rajon Rondo? And if I want to find that answer, I have to go to every checklist. I have to literally go to every optic checklist, Control F, is Rondo in it, and it just takes a long time to figure that out. Or a language model, I could go to a language model, say how many optic golds from the base set only have Rajon Rondo in them, and what years are they, and what's the population report on each, and it could give me that information quickly as a language model. So there is a way that I think AI, language models in particular, if they were trained on a hobby data set, that they could help us answer questions that take me a long ass time to answer right now. And I don't see any risk to it at all, to be honest with you. I think well, here's the risk. The risk is that it's wrong. That's the risk. The risk is that it's like the lawyer in New York who tried to write legal briefs using citations from ChatGPT, and they were all incorrect. That's the worry, is that I go to look that up and I get it wrong.
Yeah.
So
once it's wrong, then you're like, well, now I can't ask it anything else because it's going to give me more wrong. And I asked it the population of one of my cards, and it said like 87. The pop was 2, so I was like, well, this thing sucks. And I was very specific and I was very wordy, to like make sure I wasn't misspeaking to the stupid machine. And yeah, I like that one. That's a good example. I can't think of any other good examples.
I would like the record to show that I do not think that AI is a stupid machine, and when our overlords of artificial intelligence take over, I was pro you, and Josh and Chris were not. So kill them and do not kill me. Thank you.
yeah. So Christina has kissed the AI ring because Christina doesn't know that AI is just a series of word associations.
I don't understand it, and therefore it is God.
That was your favorite discovery of the year. You were like, oh my god, this isn't even that smart. It's just a bunch of like words next to each. It's like a really smart English reader.
No, I did. I went from like thinking it's stupid because like my main exposure to it was just influencer marketing. I'm like, here's how you use ChatGPT to make $8 zillion a week. to now like understanding like the 80-year body of scholarship that supports it. Yeah. And like when I was looking at that, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. The way that they have found a way to, like, the AI doesn't understand anything that it's doing. It doesn't know what the words mean. So like when it's reading a group of text, it's just coding each word with a number. So it converts the word into a number. It builds this big statistical probability chart, and then after the chart is built, it figures out the probabilities and stuff like that, how often these words appear next to each other, and then it codes it back to the word before it spits it out to you. I mean, it's just it's such a remarkable way to harness this massive corpus of text that humans.
There was so much content that was coming out. I even remember like Derek Thompson on Plain English talking about how the worry of like AI evolving to this thing where it's taking over the world, and it's this Terminator scenario, and it's like getting our passwords from us using social engineering behind our scene. And you're saying that's not even possible with the way it's constructed today. You're saying it's literally just like language model with some like computer memory built in of what you said before, and it's just like reorganizing the language. It's not even like, it has no concept of thinking going to do something like that.
Yes, that's why that meme that Musk tweeted is so great. because like it's called artificial intelligence, and that's, you know, it seems to mean Terminator. You know, it seems to mean robot, hyper intelligence, you know, walking around, and maybe this technology can be leveraged into something like that someday. But what it really is a language model.
Is that the Scooby Doo? Did he tweet the Scooby Doo thing?
I don't know. Let's see here. What was it? Tweet Elon Musk.
It was just
Because picking up.
black and white graphic cartoon.
Okay, well, I think the Scooby Doo one would have been a good meme because a lot of people are like scared of this thing. They don't know what it is. But if you take off the mask, it's just a language model. You know, it's like it's the boogeyman. It's like AI. It's too smart for me. Like I don't even. Those tech guys, they're probably making it take over the world and, you know, like have nuclear warfare with it and all this stuff. And it's like, no, it's actually just the language model. It's not the boogeyman.
Love it.
It's got to be the Scooby Doo one, by the way.
I can't find it. Okay. It's on this page. All right. I'm just trying to see if I can squeeze one last question in here.
One more.
One more.
You have to be in the chat to like. I can't even say that. I definitely can't say that one.
Yo, that dude needs to go to bed, man. You got work in the morning, don't you?
Cool.
He sent me something this week that like I can never unsee, and I need to just stop.
Well, I support that actually. All right. Yeah, exactly. Well, the mask is lifted up as opposed to pull it up. Okay. Let's end with this one. We didn't get to some good questions this week. All right, that's all right.
Dio wants to hear his question.
What's his question? Yeah, I know.
Dio says, well, he's saying Dio, my question. So he's saying like, I'm David Owens, my question. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't have a question for him. Oh, I do have a question for him. Well done.
He's been here all night. So let's give him a question.
Oh, man. I can't. I have to try to remember which one was his because it doesn't tell me the name of the person when I look at the list here. All right, hold on.
So Dio is like busy on Friday nights, we know, but he's not busy on Thursday nights. Noted.
Dude, I think that's true for a lot of people, actually.
Yeah. I mean, we're the only ones that's like, what's the difference, guys? It's just
This is our world, folks. All right. He said, this is his question. What is the greatest insert ever, and why is it the 1992 Topps flag gold?
Do I need to do a whole rant about like inserts versus parallels again?
Very good, David. Good question, buddy. It's good to be back, David. All right. Question. Titles. Possible titles. Up first, big hairy questions. Second, shout out to the betas.
All you beta mids out there.
I don't even need to hear any of the others. It's just gonna piss off so many people like who don't like actually listen that I want that one.
All right. Well, let's just hear the others. There are a few other good ones.
If it can get all three of us chuckling that quick, it's usually a winner.
Well, number 3 is no poo stains on the patch.
No.
I love that you posted that and Levine posted the one where it's like very zoomed in on. Was it like a Will Chamberlain shorts?
Yeah, it's too perfect, right? It's just too perfect. I was wondering to myself, how much does a blood or a poop or another bodily function stain increase the value of memorabilia? And then we had a great example right there.
Well, it depends. Is the blood stain on a female or male athlete?
Nope, we're not going there.
Yep.
Next question. Or next.
Will Chamberlain has like a sketchy history of, you know, interesting events with other people that I don't really want to part of.
Right, yeah, exactly. Okay. All right, next title is wide stance all day long.
Yeah.
We have some good options this week. The one after that is the highest points on the shortest list. We have critically important.
As I was saying, I'm like, God damn it, fuck this shit.
That's good. I like that one too. This card is hideous. Go do figure skating.
Yeah, I just like the context is so weird. Like, just go do figure skating, get out of here.
It is. All right. Well, that's a runner-up, I guess. And then the last one I had is every team is going to the Super Bowl this year.
There isn't one about your tearaway sweats and your slides.
Yeah, David, put in a late request of tearaway sweats.
Okay, tearaway sweats. Let's go. I'm gonna give you my vote. All right, it's just my vote. I like every team is going to the Super Bowl this year as my favorite because I think it touches on something with the quarterback prospecting that I like. And then my second place vote would be shout out to the Bates.
Well, Chris always gets his way, so I mean, should we even bother?
Dude, even if we all vote as dissent from him, he'll just put what he wants at the end.
That's true. You do own the actual. You're the person who types it in, so you could just overrule us.
That is correct. I am going to overrule this week. We're going with every team going to, but we had a lot of great titles this week.
Stiff says you forgot. Come out the gate and suck.
Yep, he would make sure to bring that one back up. All right.
So shout out to the Wilt Chamberlain memorabilia.
All right, we will see you guys next week.
A lot has changed since Card Ladder began. We started with 500 cards in our database, and now we have over 3 million cards and over 30 million sales.
For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up.
With Card Ladder's sales history feature, we have virtually every card in our system. If the card you are looking for ever sold on one of these platforms, you can find it using Card Ladder's sales history, and you can add a card to your collection with just one click.
My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
Plus, every card, no matter the last time it sold, has an estimated value that we calculated using our state-of-the-art player indexes. Unlike other apps, when you see Card Ladder's verified checkmark, that means a researcher personally vetted each and every sale.
We know what it takes to be reaching the top.
We know what you want, because Card Ladder was created by collectors for collectors.
Know what it takes to be reaching the top.
Join the innovators, not the imitators. Card Ladder 2.0, constantly innovating. Try it for free. See why Card Ladder is the industry leader in sports card data.
We know what it takes to be reaching the top.
Card Ladder 2.0.